Oh, that's okay. So that's a perfect introduction. When we start our lecture, the one thing I wanted to point out, even if you're importing a DWG, you don't ever need to open it in CAD. So if you don't have CAD on your computer, you don't need to install it. It will know what to do with it being Revit, will know what to do with a CAD file. So for now, just go ahead and save them. But Felicia, what I bet is happening, and it might be happening on my computer too. So see how right now the DWG file looks blank? If I click on it, it doesn't know what to do, even though I know I have AutoCAD on here. What this means is that I just need to open up AutoCAD once. See how I do have AutoCAD 2020? It just hasn't been configured. So I just need to open it for the first time and see how right now it's saying it configures AutoCAD 2020 on my machine. So for any of you guys, if you want to use CAD in this lab and it's not finding AutoCAD, you just need to open it up once for the first time so it can be configured. And then after that, it'll know your CAD files. So as soon as I did that, you can see my CAD files here. And then if I close out of this and go back to my desktop, let me close that out. Do you see how now it recognizes the DWGs? It has kind of that AutoCAD icon. So it just needed a minute to set up. But again, we're not opening them. But where I will meet you guys after you have a moment to download those, I will meet you guys in Revit in a new blank residential file. So we're still hanging out in the residential file. Okay. So for this first part, again, what we're going to do is we're going to work on a new project where we have a Cad Base Plan. Now, this can be really common. A lot of the clients that I work with on small commercial projects, when they first built the building, it was done in CAD. Now they want to do a remodel, and so they give me an old Cad Base Plan that I essentially import in and trace over. Or you could be working with an architect who only works in AutoCAD, and you might be doing your work in Revit. That happens to me a lot too. Other architects, if I do like a tenant finish, they may have designed the entire building or the entire complex in CAD. They give it to me in CAD and I just overlay my Revit file on top of it. So it's a really nice way to kind of trace out your plan. And what we're going to be working on today is an actual project that I helped out with. Unfortunately, never got built, but it was part of a housing project for Tooele. It was a row house, so this is one unit, and it had 8 units next to it. So you're going to see that there's not a lot of windows on the left and right sides. Again, that was because it was part of a row house, so it's going to look a little bit funny. But what we're going to do is, because we have a base plan to work with, we are going to import those in. And I know that base plan 01 is the first floor and base plan 02 is the second floor. So starting with the base plan 01, what we want to do in our Revit project is go into Insert, and you guys will see we have 2 options, Link CAD and Import CAD. And there's 2 pretty distinct differences between import and link. So import, if you guys can see, it just brings it in. It's a one and done, and it's in your project, okay? If you link CAD, do you see how it has that little chain on it? That means that it will keep looking at that file, and as you make changes to it in CAD, it will update it in Revit. So I've never had to link a CAD file before, just because when I work in Revit, I'm working in Revit. I'm not working with anybody else who is still simultaneously working on the project. But again, it might not be uncommon for you guys to meet a home builder who's working in CAD, and they're designing the house, you're doing the interior design, and they might make some changes. So if you want, you can link the CAD file, so as it updates too. But just know that once you import a CAD file and you weren't planning on linking, if that contractor sends you a new base plan, you can always re-import it in, right? So it's not that you can't get rid of this one and then pull in the new updated one. This one just does it automatically without you having thinking about it, Okay, so again, which one is one and done? Import or link? Import, good. If you know that somebody is simultaneously working on the project and making changes, which one would be the best one? Yep, and it'll update for you. Good. So what we're going to do for our class, because we know it's a one and done, let's click on import, and really the way you bring them in is the exact same thing. There's no difference between importing and linking other than the different buttons. So from here, go ahead and find those files wherever you may have saved them. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this menu before we click on OK. So I don't hear a lot of clicks. I think everybody found their files.
Sorry, I'm switching from Mac to this and I'm totally lost.
Oh no, where can I find? Let me go ahead. I'll keep recording now. So with this, let's go through this menu real quick. So the first thing is colors. Do you want to preserve them? So you guys know CAD colors, it's a rainbow, and it just depends on who you're working with, but it's rarely ever one monochromatic thing. If that's too crazy for you, bring it in as black and white. But you know that we're not going to keep this plan on, and we can always change it later. So you can preserve it now, and then I'll show you how to change the colors later. Sometimes if I get like a site plan from a civil engineer and I don't want to show the driveway and the sidewalks, I will just change it to black and white, and I will just keep their file right on top of my stuff so I have all of the site work without having to redraw it. So in that case, I wouldn't turn it off. You even can control what layers come in. So right now, if you click on visible, that means that only the layers that were visible, like that weren't like locked or frozen, would come on. Sometimes I just do all, or if you're really ahead of the game, you can specify, but you can do all of these things once you're in the file. Okay, and again, if you don't know anything about AutoCAD, it doesn't matter. I'll show you guys how this works once we're in Revit. Import units, go ahead and do auto detect because it should automatically come in as feet and inches. I've never had to change that. The positioning, I like to do it auto center to center because it's going to find the center of that plan and put it in the center of your plan. Sometimes it goes so far off that I can't even see where it is. So personally, I like center to center, but try origin to origin and see how it works for you. Okay. Place at first floor. So we do have a second floor as well that we're going to be putting in, but right now we want it, since we're in the first floor plan, it's going to be placed here and not at like the footing or foundation plan that's associated with it. Okay, pretty straightforward. That was a long thing just for us to say open. Okay, and mine came in essentially right where I wanted it to go. It didn't go off to the side or far crazy or anything. Now, let's say it came in and I couldn't see it. What could I click on my mouse to try and find it? A double click zoom all, right? If you do a double click zoom all, it'll find it wherever it might be. And in fact, let me undo this. I'm going to import it one more time, but this time I'm going to do origin to origin. Is that what it was by default? Okay, I'm going to try that and see what it does. Ah, thank you. Ah, see how I can't see it? So here's my double click. It's not too far off. I could have just zoomed in and zoomed out, but sometimes, I mean, it's way out here. So I kind of like to do the center to center. So with this, if this ever happens, right now, do you see that I can't move it? Do you guys remember what I need to do to this? Unpin it. See how it's pinned right now? So pin means that I'll just read what the screen says. Prevent or allow change of element position. So if I unpin it, now I can kind of drag it to the center. And then if I wanted to, I could repin it. I think in this class, is this our first pinned object that we've seen? Okay, so just know that by default, your Revit files will be pinned. Now, I would actually like to undo all of that only because if the person who did the AutoCAD file did it correctly, their first floor should be right on top of their second floor, right? If they X-referenced everything correctly. So if I reference in the first floor and just do everything automatically, then my second floor plan should go in without a hitch. Where if I kind of drag the first floor plan in, the second floor is still going to go over here, and then I have to move the second floor. Do you guys see what I mean by that? So, but you always run that risk of whoever did your plan, they might not have done it right the first place, right? So you just have to be careful about that. And we can always fix that, and we'll check it. So here's my base plan 01, center to center, open, and now I'm where you guys are, right? Okay, so we've got the first floor right here. And let's talk about troubleshooting just a little bit. Right now, it obviously came in with our layers, right? But if you click on it, there's a couple different ways of doing this. So do you guys see that when I clicked on it, there's a menu option that came up that said query? Okay, when I click on that, it will allow me to essentially click on anything, and it tells me, like, for example, those were exterior walls. The line type is a line. You see how I can click on hide in view? I didn't want to hide it, but this is a really simple plan. You might get a plan that's not so simple. I go back to civil engineers a lot. I had a civil engineer that showed like every little bush that was on a plan, so I couldn't even see the sidewalk because there was just so much landscaping. So I went through and I turned off that layer. And they also had the location of every, oh gosh, there's like I can't even say it. They're in the ground. They're for the sewer, sorry. And I just didn't want that in my plan. And so I turned off all of those too. So that's one way that you can essentially click on an item and just see what layer it's on and hide it. Okay. Remember when we first imported this in and we had our import screen, it told us that we could make it black and white or preserve the colors. And I said, if you don't do it here, I'll show you another place. Do you remember that? Okay, so this is a really important menu that we are going to use a little bit tonight, but we're going to use it a lot once we get into annotation, and really a lot from here on out. So the next menu I'm going to talk about is called VV. It stands for Visibility and Graphic Overrides. So we are going to talk about the VV menu more in depth once we start adding annotation to our plans. For those of you who have already gone through AutoCAD, this is essentially your freeze hide version of things. So you can kind of quickly look through it and kind of get an idea of what it does. But for tonight, I want to talk specifically about imported categories. Do you guys see where I'm pointing to the plan right now? So tonight we're just going to talk about it in terms of CAD, which is the imported categories. So go ahead and click on Imported Categories. And for those of you guys familiar with CAD, what do you guys see listed here under our imported categories? Good, yeah, so we see that Base Plan 01, and if you don't see them, maybe hit the plus sign. Okay, so we see that Base Plan 01 only has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers. It's really light with layers. And if I didn't want to see a layer, I can deselect it. I don't even have a door frame on here. Let me do something more obvious. Let me do stairs and hit apply. So there go my stairs. And then I have interior walls, apply. So see how you can control the visibility here? I can also turn those back on. Okay. Now the other thing that I want you guys to try and do, I'm going to give you a minute to kind of explore. I want to see if you guys can change everything on this CAD reference to like a green color. Give it a try, and I'll come help you guys in just a minute. But when I teach CAD and when I teach Revit, whenever I import something, I like to make it a really bright, crazy color so that, one, it's easier for me to see and I never mistake it for my actual plan. Any luck? Yeah? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do it with you guys. So you can click on one of them on where it says lines, and you can do an override. And you see how right now it says color, no override? You can actually click on that, and like I said, I'm going to make it pink. My daughter would be so happy. And then now if I hit apply, it was really subtle, but do you see that my door is pink now? What I would like to do instead is click on one, and then I hold the shift key down to grab all of them. So again, click on the top one, hold shift and go down to the bottom, and that selects more than one. And now when I click on override, I'm going to find that same pink color. It should do all of them at once. So in my experience, whether you're working in CAD and X references, or whether you're working in Revit, it just makes it so much easier to have it be a color you'd never see. So that way, I think it'll prevent you from accidentally printing it. So I always like to do that with my plans to begin with. How are you guys feeling so far? Okay? All right. Would you guys feel okay enough where if I asked you to pull in the second floor, you could try to do that on your own? Give it a try for me. I'm going to pause it. So I'm going to start the recording again and just point out a couple things. So what floor plan am I in right now? Second floor, good. It says it right here. What is unique about the second floor that wasn't on the first floor? Yeah, so we talked about this a little bit earlier at the top of class about how our views in every view is different. So even though I changed my layers in my first floor to be pink, it doesn't apply to the second floor. So I would have to override those here in order for those same visibility and graphic overrides to appear here. So that's the first thing. Now, is it important for me to have the first floor underlay on right now?
Well, I guess to see if it lines up.
Yeah, so that we can get the second floor on top. But then after that, do I need it? No. So good. It's good to have it to begin with so that, again, remember in Revit, we're drawing the whole thing. In CAD and hand drafting, you can draw the first floor here and the second floor across the street and nobody will know. But in BIM modeling, they're really going to be stacked on top of each other. So don't forget, and this, I hope it doesn't happen in this class, but there's been a few times where I've taught this class where even though this whole semester we have drawn our floors from the ground level up to the roof, 2 floors, for some reason when we get into the AutoCAD import, people will draw their first level walls like this, and then they'll draw their second level walls on top of it, the exterior walls. But that's not the case. Even though we're stacking AutoCAD files on top of each other for reference, those exterior walls still come all the way through. And I'm sorry for those of you guys at home who can't see me voguing right now, my dance moves. But does that seem clear to you guys that even though the references are stacked, those walls would still come through? Okay, good. All right, so I've got my second floor. What menu would I go in to start? To pull in my AutoCAD file? Yep, good. Insert. So since you started us off, Sheena, I'm going to go to Jules. Jules, what would I do? Or give me one option of what I could do next and what that means. Good. And is Import Cad one and done? Okay. And then if I were to link it, Felicia, what would linking do? Yeah, so if my AutoCAD plan changes, it changes in here too. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and import it then. So I'm just going to grab it here. Valerie, is there anything in here that I need to change right now?
I think it looks
Good. Now, by default, it's probably here, right? Why did I, Emily, this one's for you. Why did I change it center to center?
So it kind of lines up with the views, but also lines on top of it.
Yeah, so when you do center to center, it's going to evaluate all of the things in your CAD plan and find the center of it. Which sounds really good in theory, and it worked then, but let me also tell you, because you guys are human, right? You guys are human, there's no robots in here. I'm always, I can't swear, I'm always the down, that word, where here's my plan, right? So this should be the Revit center, but over here I will leave like a stray chair. So then Revit thinks, oh, this is the center of the plan. Because it doesn't care that this and this don't have anything to do with each other. It's just scanning the plan and it's looking for a center. So even, you know, as good as you are and you're doing the center to center, do you see how sometimes it might not always work? I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just reminding you that we're human and sometimes we just get random stuff on our plan. So you might still need to adjust it. Just, there's always that rogue something. Jules?
So in our AutoCAD file, we have both floor plans on the same drawing. Then does that have to be two separate drawings?
No, you can bring it in twice. And on the first floor, you could crop off the second floor if you wanted to. And then on the second floor, you'd slide it over to go on top of your first. So it's going to be a little redundant, but it still works. So now that I have the second floor plan in here, where would I go? Let's see, Ashley, I'm to you now. So now that I've got it in here, how can I make this so that all of this is one color? Just kidding, Caitlin. Do you remember what menu? Yep. So if I go to VV, like you were going to say, Ashley, over in imported categories, you guys should see now that you have a base plan 01 and base plan 02. To see this, let's see, Raquel, how do I actually see my layers right now?
I would click on the plus sign and
Yeah.
the base plan that you want to look at.
Perfect.
And expand that view.
Good. And then, Brooke, I was about to call you Rachel. And I'm like, no. I'll explain why later. How do I change more than one at a time?
Fold the top one down and then select, or fold shift.
Yep. Yeah, and you could even, just to let you guys know, let me click off of it. You just have to start at a top and then shift, or a bottom and shift. Basically, just in that grouping of whatever you're looking for. And then I click on my override. Right now, color, no override, but I do want to change it. This time I'll go purple. And then apply. So there's my preview of it. Good. All right. So now I've got that plan in. I know it lines up. What should I do about my first floor preview coming in?
Take it away.
How do I take it away?
Go to the properties menu.
Yeah.
Underlay.
Good. So let me find it. That sounded like the right thing, but my old eyes need to find it. Oh, come on. Okay, underlay. There we go. So my range base level, right now first floor is on. That was really helpful. If that wasn't on, I would have needed to turn it on. But now that I don't need it, I can change that to none. and you can see that that goes away. Okay. Eventually, if you do a staircase and staircases would come up anyway, but if there's anything else you want to bring back, if you want to bring back the underlay later, you can. Jules, was that a question? No, not a question. Okay, good. So now we've got these two plans started right here. And I am so embarrassed. I gave you guys the base plan for your final project. Remember how I said this was a row house and it was a project I actually worked on? No, this is Jerry's final project. So, oh my gosh. Okay, so Valerie and Felicia, this isn't too far off of what I would have given you guys to start. I have, so this would be the AutoCAD portion, but then I have PDFs of their like finished projects that you guys could work off of. Now, some of you guys might think, and you guys might be thinking, well, that's unfair that, you know, we only have this much of a CAD plan and then they have their whole CAD plan. But the truth is that depending on where you guys are coming in with the project, even though you have the whole CAD plan, it doesn't mean you're tracing the whole thing. There could still be edits you're doing, and you guys have that option of still grabbing someone else's entire project and kind of drawing over it. Okay? So the next thing that I want you guys to do, and this shouldn't take too long, I'm going to pause for it. I want you guys to do that thing that we always do. Figure out how to start the floors, do the walls for me, and maybe even start the staircase and throw in the door. Okay? I'm going to pause.